this section. Tuesday, April 14th, 2026, here in House Transportation. We're going to flip over to section 9. We've already heard some testimony on section 9, salvage titles. And sounds like we still heard some more again this morning, and we're going to hear some more that will sort of got into that area along with that piece. And got notes all over section 9. Look at that. I'm not sure exactly where we're going next. We have somebody on Zoom with us, don't we? Maybe that's where we'll start first. Might even have a rumor that it might be the originator or the requester of the original language. Is that possible?
That is correct, sir.
That is, well, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. You get to tell the whole committee why we need this and why we should move forward. I appreciate you joining us.
Absolutely, and thank you for the time. I definitely appreciate the time. And for Chairman Walker, Vice Chair, members of the committee, my name is Mark Bender. For the record, it's Binder. Looks kind of weird, but it is Bender. I'm here on behalf of Copart. I'm here to support Section 9 of the bill, and it is a concept that we have been pursuing in multiple states, and we've had 41 that are passed already, either passed or they've been allowed by rule, but a lot of them have been required legislation, and we're wanting to add Vermont to that list. What this does, first of all, Copart is a national auction service company. I'm pretty confident nobody in this room has probably ever heard of us before. But what we are is we have a location in Center Rutland, and we are a national auction company with 8 Vermont employees, and we service the whole state. What we do is, if you've ever heard of an insurance total loss, well, during an insurance total loss, they basically buy the car from the vehicle owner, the insurance company does. And now they have a car that's can't be driven because it's been a total loss. So they bring it to Copart or our competitor, and they auction the vehicle to the highest bidder. And that's our largest volume of business is from insurance carriers. And what this Section 9 will do is it allows the vehicle to be transferred to an insurance company from the original owner in a streamlined method, and by removing the notary requirements and allowing electronic signatures. It's like, well, why is this a big deal? Why do we care about that? Why does this require a bill? Well, right now, the process requires a customer to have a wet signed document as well as have it notarized. And if you think about that, their vehicle is in our lot because it's a total loss, but we're having to tell them they have to go get a document notarized, which is a challenge to do. This causes significant delays for Vermont citizens during a total loss settlement. And what our goal is to get vehicle owners back on the road as much as possible without any distribution in their lives. If this Section 9 passes, a settlement could be done. You can have agreement on settlement. You can sign the document. You can have the claim paid all in one phone call. Right now, it's multiple days, if not weeks, because of the title documents going back and forth in the mail. And I want to I supplied a map. I don't know if you've seen it or not, but if you look at this in green, everywhere on the map is allows this process, what we're wanting in Vermont. And we have had pretty good success. And in Iowa, we're expecting a final vote tomorrow. In New Hampshire, we're waiting for a governor to sign. So really, if these two go through, we'll have 43 states that will allow this. And we're pushing this for our customers because they've come to us and asked it because they've seen the success in other states. And but I want to be transparent. This is also a business friendly change because it allows us to be more efficient at the auction and either with us or our competitor, by having less touches on the title transactions, and it just allows us to utilize our space more efficiently. And we've had good movement this year in many states, and we're really hoping to have this opportunity in Vermont. There might be a thought, well, how does this work with the federal statutes? Because there are federal requirements on certain documents, such as an odometer statement. And in 2019, NHTSA, who manages the odometer statement portion of the federal statutes, they changed their regulation to allow this to happen. And AMBA, which is like a member group of all state DMVs, they've also published documents to show this is recently an option that is available. So I just ask for your support for Section 9, and I can answer any questions you have. And thank you for allowing me to discuss this with the committee.
Well, Mark, thank you very much for joining us. Where do the vehicles sit, and what happens to the cost of that when you used to go? It goes back and forth between the mail. Where do these during the current process? Like, where are they sitting, and is there an additional who's gaining additional cost by them sitting and not being able to get auctioned and moved on?
Well, they're typically two places. One, they're on our lot, but there's some vehicle owners who don't allow the vehicle to be moved until they get confirmation of being paid, and that is just an industry reality. So, but I would say so they're at the body shop or the record yard awaiting the settlement, and that it has a daily storage cost. If they're moved to our location, they're sitting on our lot, and we typically don't charge storage on that, but it's, to be frank, they're taking up space that another car could be sitting. So if we reduce it by just a week, that allows us an opportunity to flip that spot. So there is no addition, to answer your original question, if it's on our lot, there's no additional cost other than the depreciation of the unit, which is, you may not know this, but salvaged vehicles are actually very perishable. They lose value quickly. So the quicker we sell them, the higher returns for the insurance company as well.
Thank you. In all these states that have all this activity, or that have this electronic signature ability, has there been any case on the opposite side of where this has caused there's always lawyers out there. Has there been cases resulting from not having the notary and allowing electronic signature that's caused a negative side to this? Has there been a fraud? Has there been a piece? Are we selling something there that wasn't theirs to sell?
That's a great question, and I've been in salvage title processing specifically since 2000, and I have never known of that scenario happening. And we started doing electronic signatures around 2008, 2009, but I've never known of there be any situation where fraud or anything like that occurs. And you ask about any pushback. We've really not had any pushback. We've had some consumer rights type groups maybe at question whenever we have a bill come up, but we explain to them that actually helps your constituents because they can settle a claim faster. But remember, this is a very targeted situation too. It's through an insurance company total loss settlement. So insurance companies are highly regulated. Every state Department of Insurance is very active in their processes. If this was just like every vehicle out there, like me selling you a car, you could probably convince me that there might be a little bit of risk, but in this very targeted niche industry, I don't see how it could be because they're being indemnified for the vehicle. And if something does happen, which I've never experienced it, the Department of Insurance, as well as any plaintiff lawyer, would definitely be interested in getting that resolved.
Thank you. Mark, you said you've done this in multiple other states. You're working on almost Iowa and New Hampshire right now. The very last section, the last part of this, has that been in the language in most of the other pieces? Just some kind of addition part that says an insurer shall identify and hold harmless the department for any claims arising from the issuance of a certificate of title pursuant to this section. Has that been standard language in these other states? Is this something different on this?
That's a great question. Not in all states, actually. It has been requested in states. We had the perception when we put this bill out after previous talks with the Department of Motor Vehicles that was required. So we put that in based on those conversations, which were many, many months before. I mean, we're talking about a year or 2 years before. But honestly, it was required in Iowa. That is the only reason we're having a bill go through right now. And there was a Minnesota, it was required, and in New Mexico, it was required in not an electronic signature, but a titling bill. They specifically requested it at their attorney. So we put it in based on those conversations. New Hampshire, it's required. It was added and required, which we're waiting on the governor's signatures I mentioned. But so it's we put it in to satisfy the concerns that we've been led to believe were out there in the state. But to follow up with that, we have never seen any activity around this, as I mentioned earlier. There's never been any fraud or anybody taking a vehicle that they haven't been identified.
How many thousands of transactions do you think this has been involved in?
Oh, we sell approximately 3 million cars in the United States a year. And I would say probably an easy estimate would be half of them are done with electronic signatures. So it's very, our highest volume states have electronic signatures. Like, I mean, I'll throw them out here that are close. New York, we just passed that 2 years ago. Pennsylvania, Florida, Texas, California, Washington just passed it this year. So very high volume states allow this because they see the benefit to the consumer.
So the New York passed it 2 years ago. What do you notice? Is it noticeably different in the industry by having the ability to do this?
Oh, yes. Yes. It's the settlement times are so much faster. And New York's different because they don't have an actual salvage title. So it doesn't, they have a unique system. It's a 907A process, but we still have to get documents. So we don't use it to transfer the title. We use it just to authorize the sale. But yeah, it's Massachusetts actually just passed this year, January 1st of 2026, it was enacted, but it hasn't been implemented yet due to some regulatory rules that have to be created. But yeah, Connecticut's another close one. New Jersey, yeah, we've seen no issues whatsoever.
Anybody else have any questions?
I would like to just make one more comment is that the benefits, while there's no issues, there's also a lot of benefits, and primarily to people. I mean, hopefully nobody in this committee has ever had one, but a total loss is a very stressful time in somebody's life, especially if you're a single one parent family or a single car family. You're without a car and you have to wait till you get U.S. Postal Service to send you a check in the mail, and when it could all be, or get titles in the mail when it can all be done electronically.
I looked around all the usual suspects that have questions, and I guess it's just me. So,
and I'll be glad to stay on. And if I know you have other presenters, if you have a question for me, I'll stay on and I'll be glad to answer any questions that you may have.
Well, I certainly appreciate that. Thank you very much.
No problem. Thank you for the time.
Does the DMV want to go next, or does Jane want to go next? Are you guys still working this? You guys still working on this part, or are we making progress on this last section, is my understanding?
I can present the issue to the committee and
All right,
see if you give us permission to keep talking.
excellent. I tried to pretend that I knew it. I tried to pretend that I knew what I was talking about in that section because this has some interest among multiple parties in the piece. And you know, when it comes to vehicles, that's about as most as I can put into it right there.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, members of the committee. I'm Jamie Feehan with Permer Piper, Eggleston and Kramer. This afternoon, on behalf of State Farm Insurance Company and also the American Property Casualty Insurance Association. State Farm is the nation's leading P&C and auto carrier, also has a significant market in Vermont. And APCIA is a national trade association of over 1,000 members, several hundred of whom write business in Vermont. And collectively, they have about 2/3 of the P&C and auto market in Vermont. Both State Farm and APCIA are very supportive of Section 9, updating the process. I think it was alluded to by the previous witness. This will help move the process along much quicker for insurance policyholders to get their cash if it's a cash settlement, or to just move this vehicle on to its next life. It does take time, at a time that's very stressful for the policyholder to get either wet signatures or notaries or whatever it is that might be necessary to, as I say, to help move the vehicle onto its next life, which is often, if an insurance company is involved, often utilizing one of these salvage companies that will take the vehicle. My understanding of that process is that it's really only qualified bidders that are able to purchase those vehicles. Someone, for example, who might want to crush the vehicle, scrap it for parts, or if it's a candidate, maybe look to rebuild it and then try to have it have a next life. My reason for being here gets to that one particular section that the chairman focused on, and it's in, I have the bill as passed the Senate on page 14, and it is this sub C on the indemnification and hold harmless, requiring the insurer to be on the hook for really any claims that are brought against the department, at any point through this process. Insurers, certainly are happy to, be held responsible for issues or omissions or errors that they've made, but holding us responsible for issues beyond our control seems a little bit broad and perhaps not quite fair. There are other parties involved or could be involved downstream with this vehicle as it goes through its various stages of life. And to come back and ask the insurance company to be responsible financially for whatever claims may be brought, again, it just doesn't quite seem fair from our perspective. So we've been having some discussions with the parties outside of here to see if we might be able to maybe narrow that a little bit so that it would be over those issues that we have control over and not necessarily extend it to parties beyond. I'd also add that this is the way it's drafted under C. It refers to any issuance of a certificate of title pursuant to this section, which is broader and includes A, which includes applicants for a title that are beyond the insurance company. It could be an individual, it could be anybody else. It could be a vehicle that isn't insured, for example, or the insurance company doesn't take title. So that's another sort of area where we think it's quite broad and, honestly not quite fair. So this, as the previous witness alluded to, states are all over the map on this. Even the salvage title process is all over the map. But from the bottom line, we do support the section because we really do think it'll help policyholders. It really makes the process more efficient and helps the vehicles get going on their next life. But we hope to be able to perhaps come back with some language that might narrow that a little bit.
Representative?
Yeah, and I apologize if this was answered before. I get the idea that, allow an electronic process. That'd be a heck of a lot easier. What's the process if I own a vehicle, but I don't have the title? The bank has the title, maybe it's half paid for. It gets wrecked. How does that process work in that situation?
Yeah, before an insurance company can apply for a title certificate, a salvage title, and maybe even part of the supporting documents, they have to pay all lien holders in advance of doing that, and you have to show proof of that. So if a bank has the title, that means they've got, the loan or help, provide a loan, and all of those have to be paid off before the vehicle will be transferred. That's already covered elsewhere.
Representative Case?
What are some examples of doesn't need to be much examples of things that are out of control, the insurance companies that you were just quoting on there?
Sure. It could be any information provided by other parties that the insurance company doesn't provide.
Okay.
It could be a downstream issue, like say, for example, something comes up at the auction process or the buyer of the vehicle. Probably doesn't happen in Vermont, but maybe people monkey with titles, or maybe somebody might question whether it was, should have been issued a salvage title in the first place.
Right.
The vehicle could have been rebuilt, et cetera. Those sorts of things might pop up.
Okay.
The laws that just passed in Iowa, New Hampshire, et cetera, we're saying that there's not enough consistency in all those 41 states that do or don't have this particular language.
I think it's a mix, yeah.
So it's all over the place, so it doesn't give you a clear language to adjust to or to suggest to use again or anything like that. So
There are instances where I believe some states have agreed to limit it to errors or omissions made by the insurance company. Yeah. That was the standard in New Hampshire. I'm not aware of the legislation that might overturn that, for example. New Hampshire law has it limited to insurance.
So for the committee's perspective, I guess, we've asked that the DMV and interested parties figure out what might be workable, and we want to hear from the DMV when that time comes, if they agree with the language and that the advocates that have directly impacted agree with it. It sounds like everybody wants to make the section stay, but there's just this particular piece highlighted in there that we're going to end up with this part on hold until we hear that people have found something. Then they'll bring it back to us, I guess, at this point, unless you want to make a comment in between, or there's more to add. If there's any more questions.
I think, Heather Schultz, I think that Mark could shine a little light onto what another state has done that I think State Farm supports.
Mark's still out there. I'd be happy to, if Jamie doesn't mind him talking over your shoulder. I think we're all interested in getting this resolved. Is that not fair to say, that way I understand it?
Yeah.
Everybody wants to make this work.
But just if the department and the committee thinks it's appropriate, is the option available to just remove that section C? Because that was added due to the perception that it was needed. But if it's not needed, then would that be an acceptable opportunity?
That
'Cause
would
I
be
know
something
that-
I'd want to hear the comment both from the department and it end up back at the Senate for the reason for having kept it in, I guess. So
Okay.
I mean, I can't, I guess what I'm saying is not up to me to answer that immediately right now, but I think that is a suggestion that's certainly possible. It's possible to take it out in the process. Whether it's the
Okay.
right thing to do or not, I don't know the answer to that.
And I have some examples from other states that I will provide to Heather, and she can forward them on. It'll take me a minute. I can't pull them up on the phone right now, but I can dig them up. It won't take 10 minutes. So
Representative McCoy has a question.
I don't have a question,
Oh,
just a
sorry.
comment. I did have a little note on the side, on section C, there was some concern about this section.
And that's what that's what we're on right now. So I guess if that's, the student and the committee is aware of the issue, did you want to comment at this point or no?
You said like the commissioner for DMV, not like that's them for, we'll work with them to find some common ground. I think it'll be an easy fix.
Either take it out or adjust it or leave it as is, huh? Unless you come up with
TBD.
all the above or all the, so, okay. Well, then everybody knows where we're at and we'll wait to hear. I don't know if there's other questions about the entire section. That would be, if there's any other spot or anybody else that you think needs to be heard from in terms of consumer protection direction or anything else related to the rest of this section. Depending on floor on Friday, we're going to try to mark up and at least check off and thumbs up the sections that we all agree on. So and we still have sections we're taking testimony on, still have more to do, but that's the plan, is we're going to thumbs up the sections we can. This would not be one of them at this point. So, okay.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you for joining us. Thanks for outlining the situation. We'll
Thank you.
look to get a resolution. Okay. Light day today. Anybody have any questions? Comments? We're adjourned until tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock, where we will hear the testimony from the Pew Research Center as one of the members